Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Ches in Bab Mציעא. As we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael and assume about Rav Shapiro. We're at the Mishnah, smack in the middle of Ches Amar Alpha. We left off yesterday. Bad Mosai Chayv L'Hachris. So we know that an item that has a identifying mark, a siman of some sort, you must call out. If it's something that's possibly was placed there, you leave it. You leave it because maybe the makom, the place, is his only siman. He doesn't have a siman. He has no other siman. So if it's likely or even possible that he placed it there, you just leave it. If it's an item that has no siman, but the person has not yet given up, like my daughter pointed out, I said, give an example. If you dropped $1 at Madison Square Garden, and you found $1 on the floor. Well, maybe the guy who lost it didn't realize that he lost it until he goes out for another beer. He doesn't realize that he lost his $1. So that would be Shlomi Das. You have to wait, right? You can't take it because maybe he doesn't realize it. But if it's in a situation where it's pretty obvious that he's given up on it already, that he knows he lost it and he has no siman, then you can keep it. But when you have to call it out, you have to announce it because there's a siman, you have an obligation to return it. How long? How long? What are you supposed to do? Hold on to it forever?
Let's say a diamond ring, you find it's stolen. It's stolen. So if the guy he placed it there, but you don't have chashash that if you leave it there, someone else will come and steal it.
That's the owner. If you think that he left it there on purpose, then you shouldn't pick it up unless it has a siman. Now, if it has a siman and he might have lost it, then you could pick it up and announce the siman, and the owner will come and get it.
The fact
but
that it's stolen,
right?
Okay,
it's what?
It's covered up.
Oh,
he placed it.
So we said before, if he placed it in the garbage,
there's no chance that someone else will come and steal it.
If he's not worried about it, it's not your job. Then it's not your job. It's Aveda Midas. If he put it in a place, we had the other day. If you put it in a place that's concealed, right? That's a concealed spot, and it's that's the owner's job. He put it there. It's his recourse. We said that we had that in the Mishnah, right? Masagafa or Masabikli Ashpa. If you put it in the garbage, if it's covered up, you don't touch it because he placed it there. If it's exposed, then you should take it out and call it, because if it's exposed, maybe it's going to be dumped now. Remember, said he put it originally in a place thinking that it wasn't going to be emptied out, and then it was emptied out. So if it was about to be emptied out, then you have an obligation to return it, because he has otherwise it'll talk to be lost. And if a guy put it in a place, like if it's a diamond, he says he wasn't too smart, then you should probably take it and call it out. But if he has a siman on it, and probably if it's a diamond, most people don't leave a diamond around. So maybe that would be a pretty obvious return. He says, it's a diamond. He would know how many carats it is. He would know how big it is. He would know what kind of a cut it is. Then he probably would have a siman on it. Then you should return it. But if it's something that doesn't have a siman, his only siman may be the place that he put it. So if he concealed it in a certain spot, don't touch it. Like I said, the guy's examples, a guy left the sitter in one of these cubbies. His only siman is that he knows that he placed it there.
Why should you be more concerned than the owner?
Than the owner himself, exactly right, if that's the case. Unless something came up that the owner thought that it was not going to be touched, that area, and then it turned out they were going to do construction or whatever it was, that they were going to clean it out, then you have to lose. Obviously, like you said, you have to use your common sense. So how long do you have to call it out for? How long do you have to announce it? If the Rav Meir says until his neighbors find out. Whose neighbors? We'll see in the Gemara. Rav Yudamer, Shosh Regalim. You have to announce it for the 3 Regalim. That's what people come to Yerushalayim, as we'll see. There's a certain lost and found area. You announce it for 3 Regalim. Achar Regel, after the last Regel, whatever it is. It might have been Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuos, and it might have been, it depends when you found it. If you found it before Shavuos, so you announced Shavuos, then Sukkot, then Pesach. Then after the last one, you wait 7 days. Why 7 days? So let's say you make an announcement, I found an item. Anybody lose an item? Well, maybe I lost it, last year, 6 months ago. It's enough time for him to go home to his house, 3 days to go home. We'll see, from Yerushalayim to get to his house, wherever his house was in Eretz Yisrael. Then as soon as he gets home, he'll check and he'll see if he lost any item. V'yachzor, and he'll come back. If he saw something's lost, he'll come back for 3 days. V'yachros yom echad, and then one day the loser will announce, I lost this and this item. So it's a total of 7 days. So the person who found it, the finder, has to deal with this item for close to a year, 3 regalim plus 7 days. Like Mark's going to talk about that. Tana shchene aveda. Okay, yeah. How long do you have to announce it? As long as the neighbors of the lost item find us. And my shchene aveda. What do you mean? Ilay mishchenim the bal aveda. If you mean the neighbors of the one who lost it, well, if you know who lost it, if you know who lost it, lays of ladrinillah, go and give it back to him. Can't be the neighbors of the guy who lost it, because we don't know who lost it. If you know who lost it, return it to him. Until the neighbors of the place that it was found, Aveda. Now, okay, so you say over here, that's Rav Meir's opinion. Just as long as the neighbors find out about it, that's good enough. Okay, we'll see. Even Rav Yehuda argues, and he says it's Shalosh Regalim. We'll see that occurred in the time of the Beis Hamikdash when people were Ola Regel. Now they're not so much. Rav Yehuda says it's 3 regalim. Why 3 regalim? Right? That's when people come to Yerushalayim, so they'll hear the announcement, and they'll go back and check. And after the last regel, when there's no, you're not going to wait for the 4th regel, the 4th time around the following year. So you give them 7 days to go home and come back. Rav Yehuda says, for a minute, what do you mean? Is that really 7 days enough time to go to the extreme parts of Eretz Yisrael and return? The 3rd of Cheshvan, Shol, and it's like Shom. That's when we say Saint Talmud. On the Zion Mar Cheshvan. Why? Right? Kedei or Shehu Yom Tesvav Yom Achar Chag. In other words, you give them 15 days. When is Sukkot over? Shmini Atzeres is Chav Beis Tishrei. So you have those days, 8 days that left there, plus 7 days in Cheshvan. That's 15 days. Kedei Shegiach and Shebe'er Yisrael and our process. The last guy. Why do we wait to ask? We don't want to ask for rain because the people who are Ola Regel, we want to give them time to get home before the rain starts. They didn't have trains and planes and cars, and we don't get them stuck in the rain. So we don't want the rain to come until 15 days after the Chag is over. Give people time to get home. So you see, it takes a long time to get home. 15 days it could take to get home. So what is this business about 3 days and coming back? Depends on the first base and the second base. The first base and then at Fish Yisrael, there was a lot of people there. Yisrael too, with many people. The Sibu, Yud of Yisrael, Rabim Kucholayom. How many were the Jews? As many as the sand of the sea, Shalayam. Most as the sea sand, right? As on the beach. There were millions and millions of people a road. Be'inan Kuli High. So there's a lot of people, a lot of crowds. It takes a long time. The Mikdash Elon of Fish Yisrael too. And the second base of Mikdash, unfortunately, not very many people came up. The Sibut says, how many people came up with Ezra? The entire population of the Jews was Arba Ribu, 40,000, Alpayim 40 with 2,000, that's 42,000. It's only 42,360 people. So it was a lot easier to run through the highways were empty. So you can make it fast. Let me call it high. Amalei Abaya, just the opposite. Well, it says it says in Nehemiah that the Kohen settled in Eretz Yisrael. It says the Margmor says I'm Shorim Vashorim in the Nehemiah. It actually is Vashorim first, and the gatekeepers and the singers, B'chol Yisrael Ba'areim, and all the Jewish people. B'areim, they lived in their cities. In other words, even though it was only 42,500 people, but they were spread out all over Eretz Yisrael. But even to Hachiyu, it's likely that it took them longer in the second Beis Hamikdash. Like Mikdash Rishon and Fisher Yisrael, there were many Jews in the first Beis Hamikdash. The Mitzvahs Alma, there's a lot of teamwork here, meaning they had plenty of people. There's many people that you could make groups with. You'll find caravans. You'll find night travel also. They'll be able to find caravans traveling back and forth day and night. So the traveling was easier when they had more people because there was more transportation available, so they can make it faster. So Labinikola, you don't need that much time. You don't need the 15 days. For it's enough 3 days. There was not a lot of people in the second base, as we already described. There's not a lot of you don't have any teams, any groups. You won't find traveling caravans at night, maybe only during the day. You need more time because the travel was slower. So that's what he said. So whatever it was, the answer is that as far as Rav Yehuda goes, waiting that enough time, the 7 days. The issue is what's the 7 days. We understand the 3 regalim. You know, so the first regal, okay, when you come back next yontif, you'll between now and when you go back home, you come back for next yontif, check if you lost anything. Second and third one, fine. But after the third one, we only give them 7 days. Why 7 days? Because as we said that in the first base of Mikdash, it was enough 7 days to go back and forth. Really 3 days and 3 days, and then 1 day to announce that I lost such and such an item. Or depending how you look at it, either the first base, which was 7 days was enough to go back and forth, or 3 days to go to the extreme parts of Eretz Yisrael, or when we talked about 15 days, the opinion of Ramil, you need to you wait for asking for rain until Zion Mar Cheshvan, is because then it took longer to get to the extreme parts of Eretz Yisrael. Rava says no. Rava says you don't have to go through all that machination. Loshna, doesn't make any difference. The truth is, it might have taken more than 7 days or 6 days to go back and forth. But when it comes to this guy's taking care of this item already for 3 regalim, and then another 7 days. That's enough. That's enough. It's enough that the Chacham were not matriach this person, that she show a Yosim more than 7 days. That's good enough. You don't have to do more than that. In other words, obviously, if a mitzvah v'shavas aveda, l'suchal asalim, okay, you got to pick it up. You have to try to return it, but you make your best effort. As we'll see, it depends on the item. Sometimes things take. Nobody claims it. What are you supposed to do? You're taking care of it. There's a lot of work involved sometimes. We're going to talk about that on Amid Beis. So he says it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, when it comes to rain, you're right. It might take them 15 days to get to the extreme parts. But the Chacham were not matriach this guy to do all this and then to wait in Yerushalayim another 7 days. That's enough, not more than that. I'm going to read a Shema Minah.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with Yerushalayim.
No, when you lost an item, we're saying when you lost an item, a guy found an item in Yerucham, right? So what does he do with it? How do you announce it? Rav Meir says, you just tell the neighbors. Neighbors. Rav Yehuda says, no, you got to take it up to Yerushalayim. The Shalosh Regalim, who knows, maybe was visiting their in-laws there, and everybody gathers in Yerushalayim for the Shalosh Regalim, and there you announce it, and it'll become well known. Okay, so how much do you have to do it? You got to go all 3 regalim, and then after the 3rd regal, you have to wait another 7 days in case it hasn't been claimed yet, to give people time to go home and check and come back and forth, etc., and check if they've lost anything. Ravina says, Shema Minah ki machros glim machros. You see over here that you announce. What do you announce when you say you lost an item, when you found something, right? You don't say, I found an item with $100, I found a wallet with $100, and anybody lose it, right? That's opening yourself up to cheats. So what do you say? I found an item? Or do you say, I found the garment? So he says over here, you see over here, you must be that you announce that you found a garment, not just an item. An item could be anything. Why? If you just say, I found a lost item, it's not enough to say 3 days going home and 3 days coming back, as if he could check right away, check in his closet and see if his coat's missing. He doesn't know if it's a coat. If you tell him, I found an item, I found an item. The guy goes home to check. Well, you got to check your whole house. How do you know what item it was? Was it a wallet? Was it a briefcase? Was it a talus? What was it? I don't know. A pair of tefillin. So he needs more time for that. So it must be that you tell him, I found a garment. So he goes home, and right away, in a few minutes, he could check all his garments and come right back. It must be that he calls out, I found the garment, and a coat or whatever. Rabbi says, no, it could be that he announces, I just lost, and I found an item. You say, why didn't you give him an extra day? As we said before, as Rabbi said before, 7 days max, that's it. 3 days to go home, 3 days to come back, and 1 day the guy will say, I lost such and such an item. You want an extra day in there because the guy's got to check all his belongings? We're only going to go so far. When he announces it, he comes to Yerushalayim and he says, okay, we'll see, there was a certain lost and found area in Yerushalayim. And he would go there and he would say, I found an item. And this is the first regal. In other words, if nobody claims it now, I'm going to come back the next regal and the following one. Right? Yeah, regal sheni, second one. Shlishi, when it comes to the regal shlishi, Omer Stam, he just says, I found an item. So he doesn't say which first time, second time, third time. If you just I found an item, people know, okay, it's serious now. You better claim it now or go home right away and come back. Don't think you have another regal to come back. Why do you say that? Why do you say lema regal shish? Let him tell him it's the third one. That's all. Because he might confuse it with the second one. When you say, what did he say? Did he say second or did he say third? Sheni, shlishi, maybe the shin, whatever. I'm not sure what he said. So maybe he figures we'll have more time. But if you just say, I found an item, you better check it right now. Then it says more sheni nami asi lachlufa barishan. So why do you say sheni? You might confuse that with the first one. He might give more time. So asi but he's got to come back anyway for the third regal. In other words, even if he assumes that when the guy said sheni, it was really rishon. So what's the difference? Either way, he's going to come back for the second one, so he doesn't have to rush back because he knows he has to announce it 3 times. But if he just says it's stam, I found an item, without mentioning first, second, third, then that's the last time, and you only have 7 days to go back home, and 7 days to come, to go home, come back and announce it. Originally, time of the Beis Hamikdash, anybody who found an item would go to Yerushalayim and announce it for 3 regalim. After the last one, as we said, 7 days. So he'll go there, come back, and announce it for 1 day. Again, this Bryce is a proof to Rav Yehuda. Usually the machlokes Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda, like we have in our Mishnah, Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda, we paskin like Rav Yehuda, which is what the Gemara is basically saying here too. So we paskin like Rav Yehuda, you announce it for 3 regalim, and then afterwards you wait 7 days. Okay. Once the time Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it should be speedily rebuilt in our time. There's no more Beis Hamikdash. People aren't all the regal anymore, unless they have a suite at the Waldorf or something like that. Rich people, most people don't come. Not people all the regal. So, what do you do if you find an item wherever you are in Tel Aviv or Yerucham or whatever? You announce it in the shuls and in the Beis Medrash. Okay. Once the oppressors, the violent people who would take away lost items came, you don't want to announce it because these goyim will come and take it away. You just let your neighbors know, and of your acquaintances, but that's enough. You find the lost item, use your common sense. If you found the lost item around this neighborhood, you don't have to go to Tel Aviv to announce it. You announce it in the neighborhood. That's good enough. You don't have. We'll talk about the time limit soon. What does that mean from the time that the oppressors came? Like there's more there. Why? The Amri Aveda Salamalka. These oppressors, like they're probably government agents or whatever, would say anything that's lost goes to the government. You give it to the treasury, right? Anything that's lost, you give it to the treasury. You can't keep it. So that what are you going to do then? If you announce it, they'll take it away. They'll give it to the government. You won't be able to return it at all. There's certain mitzvah. So Ravami, so that's the story. Once there was a lot of announcement, you don't want to announce it publicly. The government will come and take it away. Therefore, you just tell your neighbors, and that's good enough. And your neighbors and acquaintances and things like that. No, you don't even announce it in the Bate Knesset or Bate Medrash, because then the word will get out and the government will come and take it away. Ravami Ashkech Udai Dedan Ravami, a story, found a purse full of cash, of money, and he was reluctant to pick it up, because he figured if he picks it up, he has to announce it, right? It was a purse, so probably he had a simon, and then they'll hear about it, the goyim, and they'll take it away. He saw a Baramo, he saw a Roman, the commerce, in other words, because a certain Roman there, a Roman legionnaire, whatever, an officer, saw that Ravami was hesitant to pick it up. He was nervous about it. Amalei was afraid. Amalei Zil, go take it. Go take it, Jew. You can keep it. The La Person, I'm not one of the Persians, the Amri Aveda Samanka. The Persians are the ones who say whatever's lost goes to the government. We're not like that. We allow you to, so you can keep it, Rabbi. Tanrabanim. There was a stone of claims. There was a spot, like the lost and found department. There was a stone of claims in Yerushalayim. Whoever lost something, Niflasham would turn there. Whoever found something, Niflasham would do it. This one calls out, I've lost something. And the people who lost it, the finders would say, I found something. And the losers would say, this is the simon. The note doesn't take it if you gave it. Zui Shishaninu, this fits in with the famous member that we said that said elsewhere that Sura'u im Nimchas a famous story with Choni HaMa'agel. who said who caused the rains to come and saved the Jewish people that way. And then they said, now it's too much rain. They said, go check if the stone of claims has been obliterated by all the rain. Then I'll pray for the rain to stop. And so it was, and he stopped, and then he prayed for the rain to stop. The point is that the Evan Towing, that was like, we would call that the lost and found department, the stone of claims.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's still something bothering me. If you find something in Yerushalayim, you mentioned, all right? Find something in Yerushalayim in Iyar,
right,
and you don't go, your first regel will be Shavuos.
Right.
All this time,
right,
the person who has lost his item has absolutely no recourse.
That's
to
right.
claim
That's
his
right.
item.
That's right. Obviously, if you think the neighbors might know about it, you could tell them. If it's not going to be taken away, that was what was done at the time of the base of Mikdash, because everybody was Ola Regel. Once there was no Ola Regel,
there could be deaths between.
Yeah. It could be, definitely. But that was the procedure. That was the procedure. If you find an item in a certain building or in a university or someplace, and they have a lost and found department, you take it to the lost and found. This was lost and found.
It's an add-on.
Maybe that could
be the choice.
Yeah.
You do it where it is. If nobody claims it, you bring it to Yerushalayim.
Yeah, it could be. You could also, and again, you could use that logic. Yeah, that could be. I don't see any reason why that can't be the case. And if it's likely that if somebody lost it around here, you could answer that too, because our point is you got to return it. If you can return it that way too. But maybe he's saying that, not that you should hide it until the Shalosh Regalim. Yeah, it could be that he's just saying, right. But according to a mayor, you don't have to go to the trouble of going to Yerushalayim. A mayor just says you let your neighbors know, and that's enough. But you're saying no, that's what they had lost and found. All right. Let's say he announced, the guy said, listen, I found an item, and he says, yeah, I lost a baseball glove. But he didn't give any simon. Don't give it to without a simon. You don't return it. If it's an item that has simanim that you have to return, and therefore there's no yush, and you announced it that you lost, and this guy knows which item it was, but he couldn't give the simon. Don't give it to him. But Ramai, if he's a cheat, even if he gave the simon, even if he gave the simon, because it could be that he knew somebody else's item. Maybe this cheat visits other people's homes, and he knows what they have, and he's familiar with their items, and he's a cheat. So if he's a cheat, even if he gave the simon, you don't return it to him. Now, how do you know if he's a cheat? Shneimar says, until your brother seeks it. Until you examine your brother in Ramayu, if he's a cheat or an Ram. In other words, you have to check him out. Meaning, as we'll see, you have to bring witnesses, basically, that corroborate that this guy's a good guy. What do we call that today in court? Before sentencing, they bring people to character witnesses. That's what you would do. So you need a character witness. If you suspect that he might be a cheat, you have to bring character witnesses. Rabbi Yehuda says,
State of Israel.
Yeah.
I remember saying this 7 years ago.
Yeah.
As a lost law.
Yeah.
How you have shown there.
Watch it, guys. It's based on the Gemara. We're going to see more.
In addition, on Rehov Yafo.
Yeah.
Wow. The police have an office.
Lost and found.
Lost and found.
Yeah, that's what I just said. The Evan towing was the equivalent of the lost and found. Based on that. You call out, what do you announce that you lost that you found an item? I found a lost item. Or you announce the article itself, like a garment. It's a garment. It's a baseball glove. It's a pair of pants. Whatever, you announce that. You just announced that it's a lost item. If you announce that it's a garment, you have to be concerned about cheats. Meaning, a cheat might say, listen, I heard somebody say he lost his coat, and I know that coat's got a red mark on it. So if you say that you found the coat, it's where you say, listen, I know the coat. I have a coat. I lost a coat that has a red spot on it. So Rav Yehuda says, therefore, you don't announce that you found the coat. You just say you found the lost item. And you have to wait for him to identify what the item is and then give the simon. So Rav Yehuda says, you just got, you're concerned about cheats who might be claiming somebody else's item because he knows what the other guy's item, what the simon is on that. Rav Nachman Amar Glima Machras. No, it's enough just to say. You could even say, I found a garment, I found a coat. L'ramai lo chashina. You're not concerned about that. You're not concerned that he knew somebody else's coat, what the mark was. Because if you're going to say you're always worried about Ramai, even for something like that, there's no end. Rashi says, oh, he could say, I know that guy lost his coat, so I'll say, if it's a coat, I know the simon. So you can be concerned about that too if you're worried about, not worried about a Ramai. So Rav Yehuda says, you are worried about a Ramai. Rav Nachman says, you're not worried about a Ramai. Our Mishnah says, let's say he announced the loser says he identified the item, but he couldn't give the simon. You shouldn't give it to him. If you say that what? That you call out simply, I found an item. Even though he said, I know what the lost item is, it's a coat, but if he couldn't give the simon, that's the chiddush. That even though it says again, the Mishnah said that if he identified the item, he says, I know what it is. It's a baseball glove, it's a shoe, whatever it is, but he couldn't give a simon, you don't give it back to him. Now, if you go like Rav Yehuda, that you announce simply, I found an item, and this guy identified which item it was, but he couldn't give a simon, so you say you don't give it back to him, makes sense. Since he didn't give the simon, but if you say, I announced that it's a coat, so what does the Mishnah mean? You announced that it's a coat, and he says, yeah, I lost the coat, and he couldn't give the simon. Is there a chiddush in that? If I say I found the coat, and the guy says, yeah, I lost the coat, can you give a simon? No. Obviously, I wouldn't give it back to him because I told him I found the coat. So what is he telling me? He lost the coat? He could easily be a cheat. If you just say you call out what the item was, the finder says, I found the coat, and the loser says, I lost the coat. Do you have to teach me kilom or simanim that if you didn't give a simon lo madrina? It's pretty obvious. If I say I found the coat and somebody says, yeah, I lost the coat, but I can't identify it, obviously you wouldn't give it back to him. No, could be you do call out a coat. What happened was this, that I announced that I found the coat, and the other guy gave a simon, and you still don't return it to him. He didn't give a good simon. He said it was a black coat. Well, most coats are black, let's say, whatever, in the Haredi neighborhood or whatever it was, or I found the shirt. I found the Shabbos shirt. Most Shabbos shirts are white. So, again, he didn't give a good simon, and that's what we mean by the Mishnah. So it's still, you have this machlokas. Do you announce that you found an item, or do you announce that you found the coat and you wait for him to give the simon? And obviously, you only return it if he gave a good simon. But a Ramai, a cheat, even though he gave the simon, you don't give it back to him because you figure he was able to discern the simanim from somebody else's item because he examines what other people have. Whoever lost an item, simanim would give a simon. No, they would take it. But once a lot of cheaters came around, go bring a proof that you're not a Ramai. In other words, especially when people live in smaller areas and people knew each other's items, and it was very easy for somebody to claim somebody else's item, even if he just announced, like Rav Yehuda, that it was a lost item. It was well known. This guy was screaming, "I lost this item," and you're afraid that a Ramai might come along and say and prove the simanim. So they tell him, bring a character witness to prove that you're not a cheat. And then you could take it. Rav Papa's own father, lost a donkey. And they found it. They came for Rav Huna, and Rav Papa's own father said, "It's my donkey." Go bring proof that you're not a cheat. Papa's own father. And then you can take it. Also, because they found the rule. The rule is you have to check. It says so examine. Make sure that you're not a cheat.
How do you do that?
A character witness. You have to have character witnesses. You have to prove that people know he's character witnesses, right? You pay them off,
Yeah, then you have to examine the
character. No, you bring proof. Two kosher Adam is good enough. Azul, Isi Sadi, right? In modern times, when they bring character witnesses, obviously he's his friend, but they try to bring people who have some stature who are believable. So Azul, Isi Sadi, bring proof. Amr so they came for Rav Huna, and he said to him, Yedison Bey Durame, do you know that he is a cheat? They assumed that he was asking them, do you know that he's not a cheat? Do you know that he's honest? Yes. But they answered the question. The answer to the question was posed to them, not do you know that he's an honest guy? Do you know that he's a cheat? And they said, yes, yes, yes. Amr lahu. So Rav Papa's father, who was the defendant over here, the guy who was making the claim, Amr lahu, Ana Ramona. What do you mean? I'm a cheat? Amr lahu, no, Anan Lavramoy Akami. We meant to say you're not a cheat. They understood the question wrong. So the question Rabbi Bar Rapuna had was, well, now they're changing their testimony. Because I first asked him if he's a cheat, and they said yes. Now they're saying he's not a cheat. That's Kivin Shehigid Shuven Chosar Magid. You can't change your testimony in court. But Rabbi Rapuna's proskin, Rabbi Rapuna, Mistavro Maisi Inish Chobas. A person would not bring proof, wouldn't bring character witnesses who are against him, right? They're not going to bring character witnesses to make him make him lose. They're not going to make him lose the case here. So probably they just misunderstood the question, and therefore I accept their testimony, and they returned the donkey to Rav Papa's father. Now he said you have to return the item for how long? So he said ad masai, right? What do you do? So okay, Rav Meir says enough time for the payment of pound. Rav Yehuda says no, you got to wait until all the shalosh regalim. Like you said, like Michael says, you could return it earlier. Let's say a guy, you find it, a guy says right away, that's mine and being smart. Obviously, return it to him. The whole idea is to give it back, give it properly. But Rav Yehuda says, no, you got to wait shalosh regalim. Okay, so that's a pretty long time. Take care of it. So what do you do during that time? Now, if it's an inanimate object, let's say, so you keep it in your house and you take care of it, whatever, and you return it, you come back. What happens if it's an animal and it requires tipul? And it requires expenses? What do you do in a case like that? So if it earns its keep, in other words, whatever it takes to keep it alive, the food, the maintenance, whatever, veterinarian, whatever it takes, but the animal itself produces also, you can use it for plowing and whatever. Pardon? You're allowed to use it? Not only you're allowed to, you have to. So you should let it earn its keep. In other words, take care of it, because you got to wait at least for shalosh regalim, as we said, right? At least for shalosh regalim. What do you do after that time? As we'll see, right? You have an obligation to announce it for 3 regalim plus wait the 7 days. What happens if nobody claims it afterwards? So here we're going to get into that. So anything that earns its keep, but let's say it costs too much to maintain it. What's the whole idea? You have an item. Let's say you have a dog. Let's say you found a dog. That could be a stray. What do you call that? A stray. Now you know what a dog costs to maintain in this country? Somebody told me it's 1,500 shekels a month. Some of these big dogs, between the food, the veterinarian, the licenses, whatever it takes, it's a lot of money. Does the dog produce anything? No, doesn't do anything productive. So it's not a chicken. A female chicken can lay eggs, as we'll see, right? A cow can do some work. So if it earns its keep, then you do that. If it doesn't, you must sell it. Sell it to yourself or sell it to somebody. Turn it into cash and hold on to the cash. Okay. You got to return it to them. Go see how to return them properly. Meaning, if you have an animal that's worth $100, and when you return it to him, after the guy identifies it and all that, you say that it cost me $50 of upkeep. You owe me $50. So the guy lost. That's not returning. You got to return to him his item. On the item. Say, for example, if something happened to it. Right. Okay, so that's what we're going to see. What are you doing that? Now, let's say you turned it into money. When you turn into money. So that's going to be a machlokas. We're going to talk about a machlokas. When you guard the item, are you a shomer chinam and you're only responsible for negligence, or are you a shomer sachar? That's going to be tomorrow's Gemara. Are you a shomer sachar? What's a shomer sachar? How are you paid? You're paid because while you're doing the mitzvah of guarding the item, you're potter from giving money to a poor person. You don't have to answer the door when they come knocking on the door for tzedakah. So my osik mitzvah potter min a mitzvah. So you're getting paid effectively, right? By doing the mitzvah, you're absolved from doing other things. So you're being paid in a way. And we're going to see that's the psak of Yosef, that a shomer aveda is actually like a shomer sachar, and therefore you're responsible for even for Geneva and aveda. But over here, when you turned it into money. Okay, let's say you turned it into money because it would have cost too much money to maintain. You would have lost possibly all the value of the animal, even if it was only partial. They had $100 animal and he wanted it, and then you're going to charge him $50 for taking care of his dog. for a few months, and then the guy didn't. Now he'll have to pay money anyway, right? He'd have to take care of his dog too, but who knows? You don't know exactly if it's going to cost money, and you're going to cause to diminish what you have to return to him. You better turn it into cash and hold on to the cash. What do you do with the cash during that time? So as we'll see in tomorrow's Gemara, you're not allowed, if you find cash, you can't use that cash, right? Let's say you find cash in a wallet that has a simon, right? If you find cash that stam cash you find, presumably the guy gave up and you can keep it. But if you find cash in a wallet, $100, and there's a simon on it, it's in a wallet or in a bundle or something like that, in a roll, and you have to hold on to it and announce it, etc. You can't use that money. But over here, the rabbi said that when you had to sell the animal and turn it into money so that it shouldn't be a loss for the owner, can you use that money? You could use the money. And therefore, lefichach imavdu chayav b'charasan. You're chayav for its loss. And the Gemara is going to explain, mavdu chayav b'charasan, you're really like a shoel. It's not just if it's lost. It doesn't really mean lost. It means you're responsible because you're a shoel. You're responsible even for an accident. Even for an accident. Let's say you had it on a boat and the boat, sunk or whatever. Even for an accident, you're responsible. Rabbi Akiva says, no, you shouldn't use it. Therefore, if it's lost, you're not chayv achrais. But the Gemara is going to explain that even Rabbi Akiva holds it, if you hold like that he's a shomer sacher, you're still responsible for genev and aveda. When he says over here in avdu, doesn't mean stam aveda. It means like really an ones. You're not responsible for ones, but you're still responsible for genev and aveda. So the Gemara will olam. You got to take care of it. Like what? Okay, let's say it does produce. Let's say it's a chicken who lays eggs, and there's enough eggs there that whatever you have to feed the chicken and take care of it and clean it up and do whatever you have to do, it's covered by its eggs. So you got to take care of it forever. Lolam. I did base for 12 months. 12 months. After 12 months, you don't have to. This is a big tircha. You got to take care of the chicken. You got to take care of the dog. You got to take care of the cow or whatever. 12 months. That's it. After 12 months, the rabbi said, turn it into cash and hold on to the money. Could go in part of a chamor, like a cow or a donkey. You take care of it. I did base chodesh. You assess their value and sell it to somebody else or turn it into cash yourself. If you have to get an assessment and you have proof and etc., and you turn it into money and you pay for it, then whatever you do, you exchange it for money. You hold on to the money. Let's say it's calves or young of seyachan or foals, young horses that don't produce too much. 3 months. That's it, because they don't produce enough. They don't work. They're not like big animals that can work. They don't do work. Therefore, 3 months. Come back afterwards. Turn them into cash. Let's say geese and male chickens that don't produce anything at all. 30 days, and after 30 days, turn them into cash, sell them, and hold on to the money. Time to go less. A female chicken that lays eggs, like Megasa, 12 months, because it covers its expenses, but still 12 months, that's a limit. I don't want to take care of it anymore. Tana goes 12 months. Afterwards, you assess the value, turn it into cash, and hold on to the money. Now, before we said that calves and foals, 3 months. Here he says 30 days. Afterwards, turn into cash. And geese and male chickens, right? Roosters. That's got a lot of effort to take care of them. Right? That its expenses are more than what they produce. Only 3 days. Afterwards, you turn them into cash. So we have the kasha here on both accounts. Kasha, first kasha is first we said 3 months and you said 30 days. First we said 30 days, and now we said 3 days, and that's it. So which one is it? So the Gemara says, so that's a kasha on both of them. Why? Are they grazing? If they're grazing, then 3 months, because then the amount of work they're grazing out in the fields, so your expenses aren't so great. Doesn't take that much work. and therefore you can take care of him for 3 months. But if, let's say, it's not the season, it's not feeding season, there's no grains out there for, there's no grazing land or whatever, and you have to feed them, and there's a lot of work involved, a lot of expenses, 30 days. Also, again, if they're big ones that need a lot of work, right? They eat a lot, therefore 3 days is all you keep. That's it, 3 days. If they're small ones, you keep them for 30 days. Afterwards, you turn them into money. If they don't produce anything, right? So if you don't produce anything, so the Mishnah said, turn them into cash, right? It says, sell them. See how to return it to him. Or what it means is this. Let's say you find a whole herd or 10 or 20 animals. So you say, listen, I'll tell you what, we'll kill one animal and feed it to the other animals. That's what I'm doing, right? Because I don't have to spend money. I'll just take one of the animals and feed it, kill it, and feed it to the other ones. You don't do that. You don't do that because you have to return him his lost item. You have an obligation to return them all. So what you do is, if they're not going to produce anything, sell them off, turn them into cash. The machlokas we had is, what do you do with the cash? Rav Tarfon says you're allowed to use it for your own purposes. You can invest, spend it, whatever it is, and you'll pay it back later on. But as such, you're a shoel, and therefore you're responsible even for own sin. Whereas Rabbi Akiva said, no, you're not allowed to use it. You're simply a shomer, you're a shomer sacher, and therefore you're not responsible for accidents. That's going to. Pardon? Thinking about it. Yeah, but not really, because the guy didn't. If you're a lova, then you're responsible for it. Here it's different because when you found the item, the Torah makes you responsible to be a shomer. So it's not really like that. I was thinking about that too. That you're not allowed to borrow the money. You're allowed to. And again, this is only when you turned it into money. You turned the lost item into money. If you found money, you're not allowed to use it at all. But the rabbi said that if you were metapel with the item in return for the taking care of the item, and you turned it into money in order to save the loser money, you don't want it to diminish his value. You don't want it to the expenses to build up, and he'll have a net loss. You don't want to do that, so you can turn it into money. What do you do with that money? That money, according to Rav Tarfon, you're allowed to use, but then you're a shoel. It's like you borrowed the money, you're responsible for accident, anything that happened to the money. If you would be a loba, you'd also be responsible, right? You'd be a loba. No, it's not. No, it's no rivers. What's the rivers?
You're using the money.
Yeah, you're using the money. You're returning the money.
But you're using the money for a purpose.
Right, you're using the money for whatever you're using it, but you're returning the money. There's no rivers. You took $100 and you're returning $100. You're not returning any more. You
make $10 on $100.
Okay, so if I borrow from you $100 and I invest it, and I make $10 on it, but I return to you the $100, there's no rivers involved. I'm using the money. I'm using the money. I bought. No, I'm only responsible to return. As long as I'm only paying exactly what I took, there's no rivers involved.
This is a loba, then there's rivers.
No, there's no rivers anyway, but there's no rivers anyway because I'm not returning more than I took. If I took $100 and I returned $100, there's no rivers. Now, Michael's saying, though, even if there's no rivers, isn't it really a loan? It's not a loan because, it wasn't a loan. The guy didn't lend me, didn't give me he didn't lend me the money. If I find an item, I'm not allowed to use it, right? If I find the $100 in a purse, I can't use it and say it's a loan. You're not allowed to. The rabbis allowed him. He's a shomer. The Torah made him a responsibility to be a shomer. The Torah says you are a shomer now. What is your obligation as a shomer? Are you a shomer chinam? Are you a shomer sacher? Are you a shoel? Rav Tarfon says you're a shoel. Rabbi Akiva says either a shomer chinam, according to one shita, or as will come out, that Rabbi Akiva also says you're a shomer sacher because you're osik mitzvah pater mitzvah. So you're chayiv for gnei v'aveda, but you're not chayiv for accidents. And that's what we're going to discuss tomorrow. We'll pick it up here tomorrow for tomorrow's stuff. Have a good day, everybody. Yeah. Right. You're not allowed to invest the money. A shomer, okay. A regular shomer is not allowed to use the money at all. Then he's a ganaf. But over here, in this case, the rabbi said that you weren't really a shomer on the item itself is what you're a shomer on. But if you turned it into cash, which the rabbi said you should do in order to do that, are you allowed to use that cash? Right? Because that's not really what you found. When you're a shomer, you're not allowed to use it.
You're not a shomer on the money anymore?
You're a shomer. No, you're a shoel on the money. You're a shoel on the money. You're a shoel on the money or a shomer sacher on the money. But the one sheet is that a shomer aveda is really just a shomer chinam. And as a shomer chinam is only chayiv and geiva. That's the machlokes we'll see tomorrow. What is a shomer aveda? Is he a shomer chinam or is he a shomer sachar? Normally. Now, normally you can't use, but you can't use it. Either way, you can't use it. Even if you're a shomer sachar, you're not allowed to use it for yourself. You're not allowed to take it. A shoel is allowed to. Shoel is allowed to. Here, you turned it into money. Again, if you found $100 in a purse, you're not allowed to touch that money. You're a shomer, either a shomer chinam or a shomer sachar. But over here, where you turn the item, in this case, an animal, where it's costing you something, there's expenses involved. The rabbi said, sell it off now before you lose any more money taking care of it. So what about that money? So the rabbi said, because you took care of it, we gave you a special dispensation, you're allowed to use the money. According to Tarfin, but then you're a shol, you're responsible for it. If you just held on to the money, you didn't.
In that case, what your hope is that the owner will not come forward against stolen.
Yeah, I guess so.